Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 12th episode of Hidden Layers Diversity in Design. Today, I have the wonderful, I will say it 3 times again, wonderful Vanessa Belleau. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Hello. My name is Vanessa indeed. And I do actually quite a few things. So I have my own business. I am an executive coach and a culture consultant. So I go into organizations and help them to build inclusive, high-performing cultures. And I'm also an artist painter.
I would like to say for everyone that don't know Vanessa, the reason why I have Vanessa today is like me and Vanessa met a few months ago at an event, and she had a talk. She was one of the speakers, and she truly amazed me. Like, it's her energy, her persona, everything she said. I think she's a really important person to have on this podcast. So I'm super excited. So, Vanessa, I know you're doing coaching, you're a speaker, you're a mentor for a lot of people, but I saw that recently you have moved into doing your own art, doing your own painting. I wanted to know, how do you started with your paintings, and was art something that have always been with you since you are a young person?
Okay, so first question, or I'll answer the last question first. No,
Okay.
I never painted. I'm not one of those kids that I was always drawing and blah, blah, blah. I actually, even to this day, I say I can't draw, and when I say I can't draw, is that I can't draw people, don't ask me to do like a portrait of you, etc. I am an abstract painter. And it was never something, no, I was always creative, but I used to be a dancer. I used to be a hip hop dancer. So I started and then a ballet dancer before that. So I always moved my body creatively, but I never thought that I would actually become an artist. No, I guess I was good in art, at art in school, but that's it. How did I start painting? I started painting properly because I burnt out actually about 7 years ago, and I needed a creative outlet. Actually, you know what? I burnt out in 2019, really. And I needed 2018, 2019. And I met my current fiance. I won't say current fiance, my God, fiance. And I remember that I was telling him I'm overwhelmed. There was a lot that we were carrying in, 2018, 2019 in the world just generally. And then of course 2020 happened, but there was a lot that happened to me as well. And one day he was like, cause he was a painter, but he was doing this for leisure. And then I said, I can't believe you paint. Wow, this is so amazing. I've wanted to do this for a while, but because I just found that beautiful, like I love Basquiat, and I was thinking the sense of freedom there, and there's a sense of freedom, and there's also a sense of politics as well, I think.
Yeah.
For when you paint abstract, because it's symbols and it's got meaning, I think, much more than, I really, see you. I don't know, it's a beautiful portrait. Do you know what I mean? So I thought that is so fascinating to me, but I also was like, I'm not too sure that I can do it. And then he just said 2 words, why not? And I said, what do you mean,
Exactly.
why not? He was like, why not? Why don't you try? And I was like, because this is not, I'm French. You don't do this. You don't just rock up and say, today I'm a painter. That's not the life. And then I remember one of our dates, he took me to Atlantis in East London, and which is a art workshop. And he basically, where you can buy supplies. And he said, paint, canvases, paints, brushes, off you go. And I was like, ah! And then I bought the smallest canvas you would find in the shop, to be honest. And then a few colors, one brush. And then I went home and I painted for 5 hours. This was, and I remember the day, this was on the 29th of April, 2018. And since that day, I paint. So
wow. I find it funny because absolutely, I agree on you, because I feel like when I'm not a painter personally, but I started with traditional hand drawing with markers. And I feel there's something very healing when you are immersed in creating something unknown. Even if you're not you mentioned Basquiat. One reason why I love Basquiat is because art is not just knowing how to draw good, but I think it's about expression. And I think Basquiat is the best reference, is how you feel at the moment, bring out the good in you, bring out the evil that is in you, and just put it on a canvas and see what happens. So that's why I think like Basquiat was always telling the story of himself in everything he do. So my next question is, I see that now, I remember at the beginning when you started, but lately I'm saying that you did a lot of stuff. And I also know what you do, what you have done for the rest of your years within your career. And I wanted to ask you, like, I know you are very confident, you're very solid in everything that you do when it comes to your coaching, mentoring, and helping others. Do you feel as confident when it comes to the world of art, or how to sell yourself within this industry? How is that? How do you compare that? What are the plus? What are the cons?
I think, I don't know if you compare it, but I don't even know if I explain what I do when I'm not an artist actually properly, but just so that it's clear to everybody. My job is that I work with senior leaders in organizations. I'm very lucky. I work with big companies, big corporates, and also small startups, charities as well. I love a charity. I love to support a charity. And I help basically senior leaders, executives, so CEOs, CFOs, etc., directors, to basically connect to themselves much more authentically and connect to their leadership much more authentically. And my job is to talk to them, to empower them, to inspire them, to influence them, to guide them to basically become the best version that they can be. And I also then train the teams, their teams, in understanding how to collaborate better. So that's basically what I do every single day, and I love it. And there, I'm seasoned. Like, if I look like a chicken, a piece of chicken, I'm marinated, I'm seasoned, I am spicy.
To perfection.
You see what I mean? I'm soft, I'm juicy. Ooh! And then, because I've been doing this for 20 years, I know I don't look it, but I'm 43, And so I have a career.
You still look young.
Yeah, I do. But as an artist, I feel, as a coach, I feel like a veteran, in a good way. As an artist, I feel like a toddler. So if I compare, this is basically how it feels, My nan is 95 years old. And as a coach, I feel I have old wisdom, like I know how to, I do mediation as well. I really look at conflict, and I know how to navigate the psyche very well, which is of others. It's very interesting. As an artist, I feel very much like, I don't know what I'm doing. Actually, first, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm doing it. All I know is that I paint, and my art, so myself is the bomb. So at least I have the confidence. Some of the confidence I have the coach translate into my art, but that's it. Like the rest of it, I didn't know. But now, and I say I didn't, but actually, to your point, over the past 3 months, I really became more intentional in showing up. Showing up, pushing myself to show up and to really see and give it a good crack, because I've been painting for a while. For a long time, I didn't want to share actually to be honest. I only started sharing my art about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. And, but now I'm like, okay, come on, there must be something that I can do with it. And I just need to push forward.
Yeah. I think the beautiful thing of, like, even if you just started, I think one of the things that tells you already how much passion you have for it is that you keep on doing it on daily basis, And I feel like, even me, I told you many times, if I don't draw one day, I feel like I've wasted my day. It's a crazy sensation, but it becomes, the more you do it, the more it becomes part of you, because it's, instead of talking, that is my way of expressing myself. So sometimes, I get lost into paper or drawing something just because you're putting something that you envision in your mind and you put it on paper and you let it express itself. So I think that's one thing that makes you a great artist, and as I say to everybody, being an artist doesn't always mean I know how to draw something, because everybody can draw something. But the difference is, for me, like, Are you unique enough? Are you doing the right thing? Oh, wow, you did something very different to others. I love it. So it's very relative of what people like and what don't like. So I definitely see you as an artist. But I think if you can mention one thing that have give you, like, when you talk to artists and people within the art world, yeah, what is something that gives you more confusion about, as a beginning artist that maybe you want to sell your work, maybe you want to do exhibition, you want to collaborate with some bigger artists, anything that you wish in the art scene. What was your feedback from the art scene? Did it actually help you? Do you have a community?
It did help me. So when I started, so actually about 2 years ago, and I decided, okay, let me try. So I entered an open call. And so I answered open call. This was with the Royal Society of Watercolor. And I entered this open call because when I was starting to look into the art world, I saw that a lot of artists were talking about open calls. And I thought, okay, maybe that could be something. And to be honest, at that time, I was also looking a little bit more for a little bit of validation, actually. Is my art even good? So I entered, and by the way, that open call, even though it's by the Royal Society of Watercolor, you can enter if basically anything is that you do is on paper. So I didn't actually enter any of my pieces. I did a piece on cardboard, and so I entered that piece. Then you can also use watercolor, acrylic, ink, etc. So it's not only watercolor. So because I do acrylic and gouache most, and sometimes oil. So I entered it, and I entered two or three pieces, and I was convinced that it wouldn't work. And then in the end, one of my pieces got selected, and I was like, wow, that is phenomenal. So then it got exhibited, and that's how I got into art world a little bit, as a painter.
Yeah.
I started to think, but what was very interesting was I started to understand some of the codes, and I was just like, I'm not too sure that actually, first of all, there's no representation of people like me. So, Black people,
not enough.
There's some, but not many. And
there's not enough.
There's not enough. And I was actually being like, but if I'm successful as a coach and, I make my living there, what does this look like actually in the art world? Because truth be told, I can't just enter open calls and then just hope for the best. And so, and I think this was a great experience because it was my first exhibited piece, and I got the validation. The president of the society was like, he told me straight, he said, your art is phenomenal. And he only saw a little piece, and he said, wow, you've got such a really fresh point of view. And I said, really? And he was like, yeah, it's because that time they had received over 3,000 pieces entered to the competition. And they
Can you imagine, and to be selected?
Yeah, and they chose 144. So that gave me a boost. Then after that, I did it again the following year, one of my pieces. And then the president told me, and actually this is also what then I put a little bit of a break on everything, because he said, you are such an outlier. Like, your art speaks for itself, but at the same time, as part of our society, it will be a bit difficult because your art is so different. Like people do landscapes in that society. I don't really do that. So it's like, and he told me, he encouraged me, but I was also finding that a bit overwhelming. He said, find your own path. Don't let anybody tell you what, you're not. Just be you. And now I can really hear him say this, and I receive it as it was intended. But then, when he told me that, I felt very,
demotivated, right?
Yeah, because I was like, then I'm alone again, like I need help, guidance. And when we talk about a community of artists, truth be told, I have found that some of the communities of artists that I've tried, not that many, but I've tried to, enter, are actually quite like this, quite protective. And I realized that is because there are not a lot of opportunities, if we're honest.
Not a lot at all. Yeah.
So I understood, therefore, it's not that people were mean to me. They were, at the end of the day, it was struggle street out there. So they're trying to, it's like the Hunger Games. They're trying to actually make something for themselves. And I was like, you know what? I hear that. I really do.
Yeah.
And so I just took a step back a little bit because I was like, maybe that's not, I took it as signs that maybe this was not for me, you know?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's that. So I think for me, some of the key things that not shocked me, I guess, from the art world, but it's how subjective it is and how
Yeah.
there are no rules, there are no path almost to follow. It's, or there
Yeah.
are some, it's very, when you start late, because I didn't study art. I didn't go to the Royal College of Fine Art or whatever. I don't even know if this is a thing, but I don't have a fine art degree. And so
Mm-hmm.
you navigate a world where, first of all, there's not a lot of representation of people looking like you.
Yeah.
Art on top of it is very different.
Yeah.
So, yes, it feels as though you have the odds stacked against you. And so what I did at the time is that I went back to coaching and I was like, let me stay in that world that I know very well. And I'll still continue just to paint myself,
Mm-hmm. It's I find it funny. Like, I think like there's a massive lack of representation, especially in the Black community. Totally agree with you. That's why we also have this podcast. And I think the reason why you go in art event and you see a lot of things is because I feel like they have a lot of Western influence, right? When you have like a place where you have a lot of Afro-Caribbean, if you saw that kind of art every day, then you will understand, Vanessa is in the right place. No, you should be here. It's because we celebrate color. Like you go in India and they have the Hindu festival. They have the Holi festival with colors. We celebrate colors. We celebrate culture. We celebrate tribalistic things. So there are a lot of things that in the Western world are not known for people. And I hate the fact that a lot of time people within art, minimize you into a box. Things have to be done in a certain way. You remember before starting this chat, we was talking about being unique and just do what you have to do, because it doesn't matter how long it takes to get there. But when you get there, oh my God, you will be the only person like Vanessa in the whole world, because you follow yourself, you trusted yourself. Because I feel like by doing this podcast, it's funny how many people I've met that people give them the wrong answer, and based on that answer, they make decisions that have ruined the future of their success, if it makes sense, because they hear too much what people had to say rather than had to hear themselves, So interesting. So when it comes to your art, is your art something that for now you just see in painting form? Would you like to see it in different, like on different medium, like clothing? Or would you like to see it as a product? If I can ask you to name me 5 things you would like to do with your art, where would you like to see your art, actually?
I like that question, actually, because as I said, for me now, I'm in that space where I can actually imagine it. It's very interesting, actually, even when we talk about success, actually, because you mentioned that. There is this also when you feel demotivated a little bit, or that maybe somebody's told you something, to your point, you didn't listen to your inner voice and you listened to somebody else, and you defined your idea of reality according to somebody else. You start to actually realize that you lost yourself a little bit, but most importantly, you lost your ability to dream, and you lost your ability to imagine what your new reality could be. And I must say that, even though I am a coach, etc., I have, when it comes to my art, sometimes I have felt that I lost that a bit. You see what I mean? But now, indeed, to your point, since January, I have really pushed, and I'm so happy that, and I've pushed because I've just been authentic. I said, look, I started painting not because I've got a fine art degree, but because I burnt out and I needed something to help me. And here I am. And now this is the time actually to be like, Vanessa, let's go. So 5 items. You know what? I can't just look at my house because my art is everywhere in my house.
Yeah.
So 5 items. So of course, painting. So canvases, 1. Funny enough, at the moment, I actually do much more, doodles or paintings, but I guess doodles or art pieces, but on sketchbooks, because told I have a lot of canvases now, because I don't sell them. Well, I didn't sell them. Now I will. But I didn't have the confidence to sell them before. So I stopped doing campaigns for a minute, and then I started to do actually more sketchbooks. And I just love the freedom as well of paper, which I didn't know before, to be honest. So what I'm looking at is, first, canvases. Another thing that could be quite good for paper, imagine a book, a coloring book, a doodling book. I do doodle. So that could be one thing. Another thing, I'm looking at my on my window. I have I have a blind that we actually made ourselves with wax.
Okay,
African.
amazing.
So I'm thinking, hey, I could print some of mine, and that could become, like a blind. What else? So that's 3. I'm thinking it could be also homeware. It could be tea towels, it could be mugs, etc. And of course, it could be clothing. Like I'm wearing. This is not mine, but I'm. It's a African, like a black-owned business also, and so it could also that it could be on a T-shirt, it could be on a jumper like this, it could be on whatever. And, just celebrating. So that could be 5 key things that I do. And of course, 6 almost cards, just simply, just cards, So now I'm like, okay, I feel, when I say this, I don't feel fear or anxiety in my body. And that means that this can become a reality. But before, and I think we have to really listen to our body as well. Before, when I used to say,
definitely.
Good, my body was shutting down. I was like, oh, could it really? And now it's a different story.
No, but it's funny, but with everything you mentioned, I think your art can, one thing I would say for every up and coming artist is like, never put yourself limits, because, when I started, I just thought about illustration and I said, comic artist, he gonna do poster and everything. But then I did a card, then I did the animation for Sphere Vegas, then I had a building, then I did graffiti, then that is weird how your art can actually always evolve with you. And the more you learn, the more you experiment, the more it becomes unique to you. So if I will ever tell you one thing, you should definitely look into clothing. That's the first thing I will say. Like, your work will look super cool, not only in, how do you call it, festive clothing or stuff like that, but can also be like, collaboration, like a small batch collaboration with some good brands. You can have your pattern done as texture and then create a sneakers or, things like that. It would be very exciting to see how powerful that color plays, in something that is not canvas. You know what I mean? I definitely think with the connection you have, you should actually put down a proposal and throw it inside to someone. You never know what can happen. Other thing I want, go for it. Go for it, Vanessa.
Said, you're right. You never know. And I think there is a piece also for me, which is, this, sometimes you don't realize the connections actually that you have, because first you don't realize. I think second, when you have not dreamt about what that reality could be, that new reality could be, then you don't know how to capitalize on anything because you don't have a plan. You don't know exactly. And I like a plan. I like at least to know this could be, and the plan could be just me sitting down and mapping out what could this be. And then after that, you move differently, So I agree.
Yeah, you should definitely do that because I feel like a lot of time I have approached clients just by giving them an idea and then they just pop out like, wow, would you like to work together? And I think that is the easiest way to, because that is your vision, that is your proposal. Nobody have done it like you. And the fact that I think because you have this amazing spirit in you, you have this energy about you, your positivity. There's something that you can bring not only to the brand, but also the community that follows that kind of brand, So as, okay, talking about community, do you have, I'm trying to build a community of artists, Black designers and minority designers with this podcast. But when it comes to your personal life, do you surround yourself by enough artists like you?
No. No. And this year I've been really, actually, this is just, I'm part of I was part of a group, actually. I got invited to be part of a group of artists, but then I noticed that it was more transactional almost, like what I'm looking for when I'm looking for cheerleading. I want to cheerlead others
Mm-hmm.
and I want people to cheerlead me. I'm looking for people
Yeah.
to give me ideas, like, what we're doing right now, like to give me ideas. I want to have a conversation that
Mm-hmm.
is deep and meaningful. I don't
But
want
that is
just,
exactly the community. That's exactly the community I was asking you for, because when something is a transaction, that is just like a business, But when I talk about community, is when you fall, they will catch you,
I think it's, when I talk about community, I think it's not only let me tell you about this opportunity or this, I don't know, this open call or whatever. It's actually,
Mm-hmm.
how about we come together and maybe create something, because that's the truth as well. We have to start thinking about how can we create something that feels very authentic to a small group of individual, hoping that it
Yeah.
will speak to more people. And I think this is
Mm-hmm.
the piece that I've not found, because again, in terms of opportunities, like also being an artist, you do have different ways. Either you go through the normal path, I would say, of, I
Yeah.
don't awards and da. But even as a coach,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that type of person. I'm about the work and I'm about the connection to the work and the impact. So, you could have thousands of awards, but that doesn't mean that you have truly had the impact that I'm looking for. So I think I don't have a community. I have tried to connect
Mm-hmm.
with people. So now what I do, because I'm much more on Instagram, I follow a few artists. Sometimes we speak by Instagram. Sometimes we have coffee chats, one-to-one, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not a group of people that are like, okay, let's go and come on, how are we feeling? Like it doesn't feel, it's not regular. It's not, it's not frequent, which means
Mm.
that it's very good, but it's not enough.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with you, because we had this chat with Wunzum on the last episode. He's actually a guy that organized this event called Mark Makers. And they kind of bring all illustrators together like twice a month to actually go for like a live painting, and they have models. They just get together, draw together, play music together, and see what comes out. And they kind of exchange your drawing with somebody else, and you just take over from where the person left. So they're trying to push people to meet more face to face. Because me, as example, I collaborate with a lot of people, but I always do it online. But the
Yeah.
fact of doing it face to face, it really has a lot of power,
Value.
because it's kind of, I say more power is value for sure, but power because it leaves you a massive impact. Rather online, you can talk, we can brainstorm together. If I'm worried and I have an issue, I can contact you and know, like, I trust you, my guy, I trust this girl. You can talk about anything. But I think the fact of being face to face, you learn 3 times faster. Is because you see, you can touch, you can play.
I agree with you. And sometimes there's also some moments where even online, what's to your point, it's good. It has its limits. Sometimes some
Mm-hmm.
people, they come across well online, but actually it's when you see them face to face that you're like, are you right? Is everything okay? Because,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
feels a bit off, like maybe the depth of the conversation can go, even deeper. And so,
Yeah.
I do agree that I would love to have, even if it was once a month, like I'm part of a
Mm-hmm.
mastermind, but that's more for my coaching business. I'm part of a
Yeah.
mastermind, meet every 3 months for a day.
Mm-hmm.
There's 5 of us, and it's great because we grill each other as well, because it's really, actually the word, I agree with you. It's value, but it's more power, because the power
Yeah.
is, and we're only Black as well. So there's 5 of us, Black entrepreneurs, and we really say, okay, this is what we've been struggling with. This is what we are aiming
Mm-hmm.
for. This is maybe the support that we need. And it's very emotional as well as very rational also. And it's a level of
Yeah.
connection that is actually very interesting, because we are really trying to do our best, just simply. And
Yeah.
sometimes you will come in and I remember, like, not too long ago, I went to a session and like to a day, and I cried. I was really, when it came to me, they're like, how are you? And I was like, oh, I thought I was fine. But actually, when starting to speak and feeling so safe with those guys, I felt very vulnerable in that moment. And I was like,
Yeah.
actually, I don't know if I'm okay. And then I cried, and it was received so much love and so much understanding, and
Because it
okay,
was honest,
yeah. And then it was like, okay, come on, let's build your back, build. They build me back up, basically, because we need spaces where you do that. And I think that for me, it works very well from a coaching perspective. But when it comes to my consultancy business, but when it comes to artists and creatives, I do think that there is a different sensitivity. There is a different, emotionally it feels different, because I see that artists, creatives see the world very differently, So
we are all in a bubble.
So when I when my mind is really more into my art, I look at the world very different, and therefore I need to relate to people very differently. And that's not what I have found yet, basically. I've not found that community yet. But I'm hopeful.
No. We should definitely do that. I always tell you, I want to bring you painting, even to do a mural. We definitely have to do that. I just need to find more time to divide myself equally with everything, having a child, freelancing is just headache sometimes. But definitely we're going to do that. And I think it's very important to have a community, because I feel like at the beginning, when I started all the events, I was always the one mixed race, black, working alone in the room a lot of times. Now I see lately there are more young people involved, good influencer, content creator, but definitely there's not enough. And I think because there are not enough, opportunity got lost, because there's not enough of us in the right places at the right time. Because if there was enough of us everywhere, the opportunity will reach all the people behind us, if it makes sense, because we will have heard of that opportunity. And I think having an empty room or having a less representation than others actually play this role, that the opportunity got taken only by a certain type of people rather than everyone, equally. So, yeah, definitely.
Just one point. I think it's interesting.
Go for it, please.
What is important is, and I think in this conversation is very important for us to state, it is not that I'm not, I'm not saying, okay, other type of creatives, who are not black or mixed race or part of the diaspora, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, though, that if the world needs to be more, representative of difference, then and just more diverse, then this needs to be represented as well in the art. And I think the storytelling is important. The storytelling, the authenticity, the integrity of something also needs to be also celebrated. And that's very interesting. But we'll get there eventually, I hope.
No, we will. I hope so too. But I think that's why I like this podcast, because everybody is different. Because, obviously we can talk about racial issues and a lot of issues, but I think by always interviewing a new person, most of my black friends that have joined here, they're all very different to each other. They all have different things to offer. They're all special in their own way. And I think that's what I want to do with this podcast, actually highlight talent in that kind of way. And then actually when we have a place and we can grow together, collaborate together, actually be example for the next generation to come. Because I think one thing that in the last podcast we talked was our family, especially for family that have moved here second generation, when their family came to the country, they actually worked super hard to give us a better lifestyle to stay in Europe in general, So we didn't grow up with connection around us. And even if we are born and raised in a country, most likely we now figuring out this is what I like, how to get into that world. Rather, a lot of people that did that migration didn't have the issue of actually building a life first, and then now you have the opportunity to do what you want. So it's very interesting if you go deep into it, because it's not only racism, but it's also about certain community don't get where they want to be just because there's no chance for them to get further. Yeah. I don't know how to say it. It's a complex topic.
art. Yeah, and to your point, I think but at the same time, what is beautiful if there was to be a community, like a true community like this. And I said community, and you've heard me say this before, it's common unity, so that you get out of the community as much as you put in almost. Do you see what I mean? But there is an exchange.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's what really community is. But what is very interesting, I think also is the piece around, there is a lot of power, if I don't say value, but there is a lot of power in being in a space where there's a lot of things you don't have to explain,
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. Yes.
as artists, as creatives in this world now, in order to win, you have a few paths, a few choices, I would say options, but there is definitely, social media, you have to be visible, and for me, that was one of the key blocks actually that I had. I didn't know how to be visible in a way that feels authentic to me, and also not too, so not too serious, not too boring, not too, I just didn't know how to kind of work it. And so, and then you have into the algorithm, and it's a full-time job in itself. And then after that, there's another path, which is markets. You can go to markets. Markets, I have a fear of rejection. So the markets will come in straight away. It's a yes or a no. Do you see what I mean? Like, and that feels a bit like, I don't know if my heart could take it. And so then you have exhibitions paths, you have galleries, you have so many different paths. But every time it takes confidence, it takes you feeling, that you have a lift, that you have, okay, I can do this. And to your point, when then you start to think about, I think I can do it, but I don't have any connection. I think I can do it, but I don't have any. Then after that, your goes like this. Do you see what I mean? So.
Yeah. It's funny, but I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the first time when I met you that I was super excited after seeing you speaking, I think you mentioned something about if you speak with someone, if you're not a comedian, don't make jokes. Just be yourself, You you had a conversation, I think, with creative like us. And when you mentioned that, that is actually the mentality I use even to do my podcast, because normally I'm not somebody that always been super social. I will have always loved my work to be out, push it out, and keep it very secretive who I am. I always liked that kind of feel. I didn't want people to know exactly who I am or whatever. But I think when I start hearing that from you, from other people, from friends, that's what pushed me to do this, because I think I'm not the best host in making a podcast, but at the same time, it's something that I've always wanted to do. And then when I did it, it took me 1 week to do it. So it shows you that everybody has truly the potential of doing something great. And sometimes it's just about having the courage to just do it, Just do it is such an amazing quote. Hey, Nike, don't even quote me on that, and no license and stuff, yeah? But that just do it is important, because a lot of times I feel artists, especially when you start at the beginning, people give you so many things to absorb that is even actually not fair for you to start, because they're feeding you so much information that scares you, and it makes your leg heavy to walk with. Rather, if you can just do what you have to do, follow your instinct. It needs to be said, be who you want to be original, and just be you. If they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they don't like you. But that's life, So
I agree with that. I really agree with that. It's just that you feel overwhelmed. I think, there is,
too
and
much.
I understand why you would say that maybe at first you didn't want to show your face, because for me, if I'm really honest, for a long, long time, I would sometimes come up with my art and stuff, or maybe put my art forth. But then, I didn't, for a long time, I was like, I don't feel that if I show up always like me, if I'm on the camera, I feel that maybe people won't like that necessarily. Like as I said, I have a fear. It's much lower now, but I had a massive fear of rejection, because also of all the narratives that we have in this world. And, I was really feeling that I don't know, my art, even yesterday I had a conversation with a friend and she was like, why do you feel that your art is just not good enough, and what do you feel that you're not good enough as an artist? And I was just like, I really don't know where this is coming from. And then I realized it's because I don't know a lot of artists, first of all, but also in my family, I don't have any artists, like, as I mentioned at the beginning, I didn't study design, graphic design, etc. So I did a business school, like I have 2 master degrees in business, and so my path was very, very different. And so creatively, and even at some point, my dad got me to choose between hip hop and, business school. And so I felt, sometimes you feel, and it's very tiring as well to feel that you have to create that reality and walking that path almost, very much sometimes by yourself, because I don't know people in this community. And also I'm over 40 now, so I'm now, when you saw me speak at that event where I was the keynote speaker, the title was Me, a Creative? I guess I am. And I also said there, it took me 40 years to say I am a creative rather than I am creative. 40 years.
Yeah.
And then there is a lot of generational trauma. I'm French as well. I'm Caribbean. There's a lot of things that comes from that too. And I do think, we have just to acknowledge it and then push through.
Yeah.
And to your point, just do it, just show up.
Yeah.
For me, it's not do it, it's just show up. And that's where I started. End of Jan, beginning of Feb, I said, Vanessa, just show up at least for yourself and then see what happens. And now that I'm growing and I feel that, okay, sometimes, you need external validation before you can really feel that,
No, but I think for the most part is like, when you find your voice, you're unstoppable, And I think like, some of, like when they talk about oh my God, imposter syndrome. Exactly. A lot of people suffer from that. And as you said, generational trauma, you're from my same generation. So I definitely think art was seen as a joke back in our days. I want to be an artist. Come on, But now, and I think that's why it's something so taboo. But imagine your parents told it to you when you was a kid, and even if you're in your 40s, you're doing it, and you still feel almost like that voice. It's not like that, and the generation is changing as well. So that's something that you have to understand. I think art now in nowadays, and remember, before judging your art, I will always like to say that when I look at art, sometimes I see amazing artists, hard worker, then I see conceptual artists that will do that amazing blue square, and a critic will watch it for 5 hours. And that's my question. Art is so relative that if somebody can spend 5 hours looking at a blue square and find that amazing, then anything can be art, So it's people. No, but seriously, people should really think about that.
I hear you. I really hear you. But see, it's very interesting because sometimes you forget that bit, And I think I am guilty of overthinking, like I'm an overthinker. I will overthink.
Yeah.
And so now even like, today I changed because I'm really owning that now, I'm like, again, it's part of my journey. And I think, what, there is one piece that's beautiful is the growth, the evolution, the fact that when we look at our ancestors, they didn't have a lot of choice,
Exactly.
And we have options, we have choices. And so now it's about deciding what is it that we want to do. And to your point, when we decide, then actions must follow, because action silences doubt, really. And I think that's also a piece for me where I sometimes really give too much into my overthoughts, my, overthinking, when actually some moments I'm like, come on, let's break this. Action now, action time. Let's go. Let's do X, Y, Z again with my plan. And, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it because I think it's all about timing as well, and it's all about energy.
Yeah.
And I think that, and for me, it's all about authenticity and integrity. That's the number one thing. And the fact that I've been, my art style has evolved.
Yeah.
Even when I still have some of my first paintings that I bought, and which is actually really beautiful. But I also have other pieces that I did after, and now I look at the pieces that I do now. The evolution in is phenomenal for me anyway.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful and thankful that I can look at this and feel so full.
Fulfill. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm full. I'm full of a lot of love, actually, for the journey, for, sometimes I look at a piece of art in my house that I did, but I can't remember how I did I really do that?
You get
Wow.
that.
Go like this. And
You
of
know,
course,
I feel like that happens, especially when you go through your old drawings or something that you did at the very beginning. Even me, because I'm cleaning my house to move out, I went into my, so I found some notebooks full of drawing, and I would be like, wow, because in that moment of my life, my brain brought me into this special place, and that's is the beauty, I think, of it. Like, every year changes, every time your emotion changes, it changes with you, so it's like a little baby that you carry around everywhere. So you're doing very good.
Yeah, I love, and now I've got this little sketchbook, like I bought myself even a smaller one to carry it everywhere and to,
That's amazing.
doodle, anywhere. And I'm really, this year I've really connected. It started a bit last year, actually. I really connected to my why. Why am I painting? Why am I doodling? And what's my contribution to this world? What's my legacy? And
Yeah.
great work with my coaching, and I love it, as I said. And there is something also about something physical that I'm leaving behind, because I invest, like the paper that I buy, listen to me, I don't buy cheap thing, So I know that the paper that I draw on will be here beyond me. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that actually, I don't know if it's arrogance, maybe it is, but I feel so, again, full when I feel like, wow, maybe at some point, you know what, actually, let me just say this, and for the universe, because I believe in the universe. Universe, listen to me right now. I do not want to be a successful artist post-mortem. Do not do this to me, actually. Do not do this to me. If I need to be successful as an artist, I want to live it. I want to really live it.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
There are too many artists, who are, like becoming really great, once they died. And I'm like, I don't want this to be my path. So please. But I feel that
I will say, Vanessa, I'm with you on that. But I would like to also say, the older generation artists, art was a taboo. And that's why I think they reached their greatest point. They found their voice too late in life, and they became confident in themselves too late in their life. Even Basquiat, you can see so many people, like even Van Gogh in Holland, like he went crazy. But it's also people that became so obsessed with their work, they didn't look for social. There was no empathy anymore. Like, it's only my work and me, and don't get me wrong, could be sickness, could be loneliness, could be, as I said, every artist lives in their own bubble. But I think right now, in this kind of generation, plenty of time. And I think it's just about finding the right way to market yourself and finding your voice. Because remember one thing, like, the story behind your art is already like a selling point for you, Even the fact of, like, the strength that you have in coaching, helping others. I mean, I don't want to market that, because that is you personally as a person. You are that person. But it's also true that that can amplify what you do as well for yourself. So it's like, I don't know, there's so many possibilities, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna have them.
And I think this is the piece, isn't it? There's so many possibilities, and I'm just very, again, grateful and happy that I get to experience and say that. Even there's so many possibilities, because as I said, 2 years ago when I was speaking to that president and he was telling me, you're such an outlier, I didn't take it as a compliment and I didn't see it
Yeah.
as its possibilities. I thought, once again, I'm being told that I'm too different, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now, and I think this is also showing us, and I say us, when I say us, it's me, myself, and I, the three versions of me, right? But it's showing us, or me, that I've grown so much. And this is the thing, like I
Yeah.
check in with myself all the time. And this, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can encourage anybody to do that. Or if there was one thing that I would encourage anybody to do is check in with yourself and really check in with, how do you feel? What really rings true when you say something? Because you can say
Mm-hmm.
stuff that doesn't resonate fully in your body, in your mind, in your spirit. And now, just having this conversation, there's a lot, because we've had conversations, right? When you told me before about the clothes and all of this, and I was just like, yes, I hear it. And there is a difference between hearing it and receiving it and then visualizing it. Do you understand? There's a big
Yes, definitely.
And now when we speak, I'm like, oh yes, actually, let me start thinking about, placements and, like a jumper, or t-shirt, whatever it is, like a pair of trousers. I was looking at yesterday, even as a pair of trousers, I was thinking, actually, my outfit look quite cool, on whatever. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, look at you. Because again, I'm
Mm-hmm.
enabling myself to imagine and to dream,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that
Yeah.
I don't take for granted, because for many, many years, I couldn't dream. And this is
Yeah.
very, very important, that I can allow myself little by little to widen my perspective beyond my reality, and
Yeah.
that I'm grateful for it.
It's funny, but I think like my whole life, I've gone against any recommendation, I would say, that people always gave me, but not because I was arrogant. I just believed, and I think like believing is believing and dreaming for me is on the same place, if it makes
Mm.
sense,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you can dream of it, but when you believe in it is when you're actually taking an action to make that dream come reality. Then okay, it can fail, you can lose yourself, you can doubt yourself, but that is also the process of becoming the greatest version of yourself. Like even in this 40 years of life, I'm pretty sure you had your downfall, then you stand up, you learn from that, then you get stronger. So it's a process, because a lot of people sometimes, when they don't make it immediately how they want it to be, they become
They give up.
very, you understand what I mean?
Yeah, you
Rather like let it go, allow it
yeah,
to
you
happen, because that's what makes you better,
yeah. I love that. And I think there is a piece also here around, I was speaking to a fellow artist actually. She lives now in Taiwan. So anyway, she travels and she doodles and and she was telling me,
Mm-hmm.
I said, where do we get all of these beliefs? She's much younger than me. And she said, I think I'm just delusional, you know? She said, sometimes I just allow my mind to get to bigger, to somewhere. And then I ask myself, but how will I get there? And then she tells herself, I have no idea. But you know what? I will delusionally believe that I can make it happen. And that's it.
That's it.
And so that was a conversation I had last week. Then yesterday, a friend of mine, I told her about it and she said, somebody challenged her on this idea of delusion. And
Mm-hmm.
my black woman, and the person was also, I think, a black woman. And she said, so the person challenged her and she said, I think we need to stop talking about delusion, because delusion
Mm-hmm.
makes it feel quite far away or impossible.
Yeah.
But she said,
Yeah.
how about we say it's not a delusion, it's actually one of our options. And to your point, you need them to choose and then believe that it can happen. And then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, when things align, the divine, God, whatever
Yeah.
you believe in,
Just happen. It's true.
it's like, for example,
It's
I
true.
want to, your body your body turns towards the direction, your steps start going toward the direction, something that felt completely impossible, all of a sudden, you are
Becomes
here,
possible.
planning,
Yeah.
and so I feel that, and again, this is the beauty of being human, but it's also the beauty of, in those moments of wobbles, is the beauty of not staying by ourselves and having a
Yeah.
community, actually, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to support. So do I have, as I said, artists as a true community? No. But do I have
Mm-hmm.
friends? sisters, sister friends that are there for me. My partner is there for me. So, then yes, I do, in a way,
Yeah. No, that's your how do you call it? That's your pack, I will call them. When I say
Yeah.
like your community, when I say your community is more intended in your arts, and because you know what is the thing? With a lot of, I have good friends like Hash Kirai, Matt Voice. They're very big in what they do, yeah. But I can call them at any time, talk about any problem, and they'll
Yeah.
be like, man, I understand, man. You know what? You should charge them like this. Man, I've worked with them in the past. So they're very honest about everything within the business. And sometimes I would have never charged in a certain way, but then these friends kind of say, come on, man, put some more money into it. They actually, they let you be this uncomfortable situation where you don't know certain things, and they actually make you grow better just by hearing them, telling them, talking about their experience, and being very open about things that normally other people will just reserve for themselves because they feel like, oh, if I share this with someone, they will take my work too, Like I'm against that, because at the end of the day, there's nothing that can be stolen from you when you're consistently evolving. And I think as an artist, you can be as great, you can be the greatest artist in the world, but if you don't evolve within time, it's almost impossible for an artist. You understand what I mean? So if you're evolving, what am I really stealing? I'm stealing the old version
The
of
old
you,
version
not
of
the new version. You
mm,
understand what I mean? So
no, I
it's,
hear
yeah.
you. I
But
hear you.
anyway, Vanessa, sorry to interrupt this. I would love to do this even longer, but we're already 20 minutes after the timing. But listen, as I said, was wonderful having you on the episode, and definitely I'm going to do a part 2 with you because I think there's so much more you can offer to this platform, even for the young people moving into art or like just
From
motivation. Because I remember when I saw you the first time, you really put, I think you are one of the best speaker I've ever seen live, that left me something. And I've seen a few, but I just think you are very different to a lot of people, and you have something about you that is unmatched to others. So thank you a lot for being here. It was truly an honor. And for people that don't know Vanessa, please, I will post her handle on Instagram as usual. Give her a follow, and big love to everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.